Good evening, Team Gerwell. Welcome to Flippin' in Fifth with me, Mrs. G. Today's lesson is Topic 3, Lesson 3, and today's learning target is, I will be able to use rounding and compatible numbers to estimate products. We already learned how to use rounding and compatible numbers to estimate when adding and subtracting, so now we're just applying it to multiplication as well. So it should be pretty easy. We have two vocabulary words today. The first one is underestimate. That is rounding both factors to smaller numbers, which will give you a smaller estimate than the exact answer. Now the opposite of underestimate is overestimate. That's rounding both factors to a larger number, which will give you a larger estimate than the exact answer. Feel free to pause the video if you need to make sure that you get both vocabulary terms written in your notebook. Now here are some examples of estimation using rounding. The word about is the key word that tells you to estimate instead of finding the exact answer. So let's try this one together. A store needs to make at least $15,000 in sales per month to make a profit. If the store is open every day in March and makes an average of $525 per day, will the store make a profit in March? So we need to figure out an estimate of whether or not the store will make a profit. I'm going to write down $15,000 because I know that's our target price that we need to meet, our target amount of money. I put down 31 because I know there are 31 days in March, and I'm going to multiply that by 525, which is their average per day. Now if I'm going to use rounding to estimate, I'm going to round to the highest place value in each number. So I'm going to go ahead and underline those to help me remember. So in the case of 31, the tens place is the highest place value, so I'm going to round to the 3. In the case of 525, the highest place value is the 5, so I'm going to round to the hundreds place. So this would be 30 times 500. Now I underlined 3 and 5 because in our strategies that we learned yesterday, we learned easy ways to do mental math, especially when we're talking about zeros. So here we're going to do 3 times 5 because we've underlined the two non-zero digits, and that gives me 15. Now I just need to go through up above and count how many zeros there are. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to add 3 zeros. So I know that my estimate is, ooh, look at that, 15,000. So it says, will the store make a profit in March? Well, our estimate is 15,000, but that's not the exact answer. Can you tell me if this is an underestimate or an overestimate? It would be an underestimate because when we rounded, we went smaller in both cases, and you'll remember that makes an underestimate. Now here's an example of using compatible numbers to estimate. Remember, compatible numbers are numbers that are close to the original number, but they just make it a little bit easier to multiply. So if we were doing 3 times 118 and we were using compatible numbers to estimate the product of this, we would do 3 times 100 if we were using rounding to estimate. That's because we would estimate to the highest place value, which is the 1, and 118 rounds down to 100. So 3 times 100 equals 300, and that's an underestimate. Again, that's if we were rounding, but instead we want to use compatible numbers for this. So a good compatible number would be 120. 120 is close to 118, but it's easier to multiply by, so it's compatible. Remember, those compatible numbers usually end in a 0 or a 5, just because they're much easier to multiply. So then I am going to go through and use my mental math strategies we learned yesterday by multiplying 3 times 12, which is 36, and then counting how many zeros are in the problem. And there's just 1, so we're just going to add 1. So 360 would be the estimate using compatible numbers. It is, however, an overestimate, but it's closer to the exact answer. Why is it an overestimate? Well, because we changed 118 to 120, so that's a larger number, so that makes it an overestimate. Be sure you get this, guys. Estimating by using compatible numbers will always give you the estimate closest to the exact answer. So if your problem is asking you for the estimate closest, you will always be using compatible numbers. Now you try. Here are 4 problems. I want you to go ahead and pause the video, write them into your notebook, go through and solve them, and then come back and play the video for the answers. Here come the answers in 3, 2, 1. Now notice that last one, the story problem, that was one we're just going to go over tomorrow in small groups. So I just want you to have your work in there and we'll see how well you did tomorrow. Before you go, make sure you've checked your work and you write how many you got correct, that you honestly fill out the self-reflection and fill any questions you still have. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a great night.